Burning silence, the death of truth in Gaza and the hypocrisy of the world. A journalist burned alive, where is the outrage? In the charred remains of Gaza, a journalist is burned alive. His crime? Holding a camera. His sentence? Execution by fire, not by accident, but by the deliberate machinery of war that treats Palestinian lives, and those who document their suffering, as expendable. This is not just another death in a conflict that has claimed tens of thousands. This is the murder of truth itself. And yet, the world watches in silence. Western media outlets, so quick to sensationalize violence when it suits geopolitical narratives, bury the story. Governments that claim to champion human rights look away. Their hypocrisy is staggering. If this journalist had been Ukrainian, Syrian, under Assad, or Israeli, the reaction would have been immediate: global condemnation, emergency UN sessions, hashtags, and vigils. But because he was Palestinian, because this is Gaza, his death is just another statistic in a war that the world has decided is too complicated to care about. This is not just about one journalist. This is about the systematic erasure of truth in Gaza, where reporters are killed with impunity, where hospitals and schools are bombed without consequence, and where the West's selective outrage reveals its moral bankruptcy. The war on journalists, silencing their witnesses. Since October 7th, over 140 Palestinian journalists have been killed in Gaza, the deadliest conflict for media workers in modern history. The Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, and Reporters Without Borders, RSF, have called it a press genocide. These are not accidental deaths. They are targeted assassinations. Israel's military has repeatedly bombed press offices, killed journalists wearing press vests, and even targeted their families. The message is clear: no witnesses. No accountability. Shireen Abu Akleh, a veteran Al Jazeera reporter, was shot in the head by an Israeli sniper in 2022. Despite overwhelming evidence, no one was held accountable. Reuters journalist Issam Abdullah was killed by an Israeli tank shell in Lebanon in 2023. An investigation found the strike was deliberate. Hamza al-Dadar, son of Al Jazeera's Gaza bureau chief, was killed in a drone strike while reporting, another mistake that never gets punished, and now, a journalist burned alive. Not in a crossfire, not in an airstrike, but set on fire. The brutality is medieval. The silence is complicity. The hypocrisy of Western media, whose lives matter. When Marie Colvin was killed in Syria, the West mourned her as a martyr for truth. When James Foley was executed by ISIS, global leaders vowed justice. But Palestinian journalists? Their deaths are footnotes, if reported at all. CNN, BBC, and the New York Times will spend weeks dissecting a single Israeli hostage story but reduce Palestinian mass graves to a paragraph. Social media algorithms suppress Palestinian content while amplifying Israeli narratives. Meta, Facebook, Instagram, has admitted to censoring pro-Palestine posts. Western governments fund, arm, and defend Israel's war machine while pretending to care about human rights. This is racism in journalism. This is imperialist indifference. Palestinian lives, and the journalists who document their suffering, are treated as less important. The complicity of international institutions. The United Nations passes toothless resolutions. The International Criminal Court, ICC, issues cautious statements but takes no real action. The US and EU block every attempt at accountability while sending billions in weapons to Israel. UNRWA, the lifeline for Gaza's refugees, was defunded by Western nations based on unproven Israeli allegations. South Africa's ICJ case accusing Israel of genocide was met with mockery from the US and Europe. Sanctions on Russia for Ukraine were swift, but sanctions on Israel for war crimes? Unthinkable. The message is clear: international law only applies to the weak. The moral crisis: what happens when truth dies? When journalists are burned alive and the world stays silent, we enter a post-truth dystopia. If the media only shows one side of the story, if governments only condemn some war crimes but not others, then truth no longer exists, only power does. This is not just about Gaza. This is about what we allow to become normal. If we accept that some lives matter less, that some truths are too inconvenient to report, then we are all complicit in the death of justice. Conclusion: we must break the silence. The image of a journalist burning should haunt us. It should force us to question everything. Why does the West defend freedom of the press everywhere except Palestine? Why are some war crimes condemned while others are funded? How many more journalists must die before we admit this is a massacre of truth? Silence is consent. If we do not speak now, history will judge us as accomplices. The truth is burning in Gaza. Will we let it turn to ashes? Demand justice. Boycott complicit media. Pressure governments. Break the silence. Because if we don't, the next body set on fire could be the very idea of truth itself.